And welcome back to the Tuesday series on theory and philosophy. This is all going to inform a book that I'm writing, Circles Theory, that has been more challenging than I ever anticipated. So watch my descent into madness as I update on that every day of the week, the influences that I have and how I'm trying to integrate that so that I can update you on how the book's going every Friday. This is a blog for me to try to keep myself sane as I do so. If you are interested, please subscribe or check out some of the other videos. This is the first video of a mini-series that will go over The Courage to Create by Rollo May. I recently finished this book, and I think that it probably influenced me more than anything I have ever read. Rollo May is a fascinating figure. So this video, I just want to do a brief overview before we hop in to what will be a 6-episode series. He is a fascinating figure in American psychology. He really is considered by most to be the first true existential psychoanalytic thinker in American psychology. I mean, he was a different perspective. He was famous for his book, Love and Will. He's highly associated with existential philosophy and humanism. He probably the only thinker that might be kind of put up to a very similar way of going along things would be Viktor Frankl, who I also highly suggest as a thinker, and was another major proponent of existential psychotherapy. He was influenced by a philosopher and theologian, Paul Tillich, who was a close friend. But I mean, I think what's really interesting to me is his work feels like the thought child of Joseph Campbell and Carl Jung. It's this really interesting combination of mythos and the collective unconscious and how that comes to understand our existence. May is a true American thinker. You know, he is a Midwest, empty, try to find meaning type of salt of the earth guy. I mean, I totally get where he's coming from. He makes a lot of sense to me. You know, he is looking at America, and I think throughout his book you see his frustration with American psychology. And he's at a time where, you know, in Europe we're seeing this existential thought, we're seeing humanism, we're seeing these really neat and interesting ideas regarding freedom coming into fruition. In America, we have really done this pure reason approach. In America, in psychology, we are the behaviorists. We like to think we're not super different from Russia, right? And it's the other behaviorists. We like to remove any factor of the human that isn't immediately observable. And so at this point, you got to think about U.S. psychology. When Rollo May's looking at it, it is very scientific. It is very divorced from its philosophical roots. I mean, Freud was highly influenced by Schopenhauer, who combined Western and Eastern philosophy. He was a thinker. But at this point in America, we've gotten to this very clinical approach. The idea that the conscious is something that is too unpredictable and therefore should be disregarded, that humans are very comparable to animals, and that the same tactics we use on dogs make sense on humans. And this is true to some extent, and we do play this out. This is very effective with phobias. This is very effective with things like that. It's very effective with individuals that are very low functioning. We're talking about very, very low functioning individuals experiencing autism. Behaviorism tends to be our best work because it is based on when consciousness is the least active. It works well with children who have a very lowly developed conscience. But it doesn't make a lot of sense for somebody in search of meaning. And it rules out the emotional artistic spirit. It is the type of thing that it feels like to me May was the type of guy who would roll in Andy Warhol's crowd, making a critique on consumerism and mass market production. And he describes American psychology of having a behaviorist accent. No matter what we say or what we do, it has that vibe, even when you don't mean it. And so his book, The Courage to Create, is a rejection of that. And looking at what does it mean to truly have a soul, to be human, to create it? What is art? And why has it always been rejected? Who is the rebel? And why does it require courage to do that thing? And what does this mean for our humanity, and how is that connected? So I want to do 6 videos based off this book. The first is on creating and truth, and looking specifically at how do we develop and create. What is that process? How is that influenced by our being? And what does truth mean? In the next video, I want to talk about art and symbols. What is symbolic? What do those mean, and how do those representations interact with us? In the third video, I want to talk about our consciousness, and I want to define it. I want to talk about how that is influenced by representations in art. I want to talk about, in the following video, video 4, why gods are pissed off that we have conscious thought. This is a recurring theme in mythology and story, that the gods are not pleased, at least in the Western canon. Then we'll talk about what is creativity in episode 5. What exactly is it? What is that process? So we can wrap up with the creative act itself, and what does it mean to actually bring something new into being. So I'm really, really excited to dive into this. I wanted to hop in right now, but this was just too much to do in one video. So please be on the lookout. The first video will be next Tuesday, and then they'll be coming out over the next 6 weeks as we talk about all of those things. So break down Rollo May. If you're interested, in the right-hand corner, you should be able to subscribe. I don't know if anyone will ever see this, but please subscribe and have a discussion and tell me what you think. In the top left, you should be able to see other videos that I have done. Videos come out every week talking about stories of literature, theory, philosophy, film, media, folklore, mythology, and how it goes to write my book, Circles, the Meaning, the Myth of Society, which is a guide for existential theory and the helping professions. So I hope to see you throughout this week. I hope to see you throughout this series. Please subscribe, and I would love to hear anybody else's thoughts. Catch you tomorrow.